built to serve.
You know his name, Tua. Now see the inspiring story of Alabama's quarterback sensation as he fights to overcome a potential career-ending injury while chasing his destiny to the NFL. Watch Tua Sunday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, only on Fox. All right, time now for stories to start your morning. We're starting with Dynasty Dreams. The Chiefs finalized 2 new 6-year deals yesterday. One with Michael Vick's former head coach, he's going to join us in a second, Andy Reid, and the other with Chiefs GM Brett Veach. Everyone getting paid in KC this offseason. Nick, what would keep the Chiefs from becoming the next dynasty in the NFL?
Well, obviously nothing, and they already are, so I'd rather focus on this part of it. Great news, finally, for one of the other 31 teams in the league. Eric Bieniemy is going to be available this upcoming offseason. There were some feelings that if Andy made it clear he was going to leave in maybe 2 or 3 years, would Bieniemy stick around to be the coach in waiting? But with Andy signing up for a 6-year deal, someone's going to get an excellent offensive mind as their head coach this coming offseason, Brandon.
That's right. That's right. I mean, when I think about this, I immediately go to Mahomes' deal. Mahomes' deal set this team up to potentially be a dynasty. Now, it's hard to do. We've only seen a couple of these teams in all sports over the past 20, 30 years. But the only thing that's going to stop these guys is 2 things. It's injury, and it's the maturation of Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. So I really like how they set up this team for success for the next 10 years. Hats off to the Chiefs.
Brandon, there's one dynasty currently in the NFL. It's been running for 2 decades called New England Patriots. Nick and I are both fans of the Patriots. As a player, how far do you like to look out and look at success? Because we've seen a lot of these guys talk about multiple Super Bowls, we're a dynasty. How do you compare that to try to one day at a time, 1 week at a time?
I think that's hard for a player, and that's the coach's job, is to bring it back to today. Like, we got to focus on getting through this practice. We got to focus on getting through this game plan this day. So I think as a player, you're always thinking about longevity. You're thinking about the big contracts, and you're also thinking about, you know, those multiple championships. And LeBron James set the precedent when he went to Miami. So I think that's the wrong mentality, but that's the coach's job to bring it back.
All right, on to quarterback quandary. Hall of Famer Jerry Rice has a hot take for you. Here it is. Quote, I think Jimmy G is a better quarterback than Dak Prescott. Brandon, you think Jerry Rice is just a tad biased?
Listen, Jenna, so he's the GOAT. I love him on the field, but in the front office,
there's a take.
That was a terrible take by Jerry.
You know you're allowed to just take free shots at Jimmy G at any point. Everybody can just say anything. The guy's 21-5 as a starter, and no one seems to care except me. It's 21, but he wins games.
You want him as your quarterback?
Does he put up the best number?
You want him as your quarterback? Wilds, you want him?
For the Patriots?
You want him as your quarterback?
Pre-Cam Newton, I did. Yes, I wanted to do a straight trade.
No. So the answer is no.
Yes.
Okay, so in a different world. I mean, and Brandon nailed it. Come on, Jerry.
All right, the Chargers are going to be without Derwin James now for 6 to 8 months after injuring his right knee in Sunday's practice. Derwin James missing the first 11 games last season with a foot fracture as well. Kevin, what was your reaction to this?
My reaction was just like sadness, to be honest with you, to see him like to go out the whole season. I was also shocked, Brandon. I know you've had some history with this types of injuries. I was surprised it was the whole season.
Yeah, you know, me think about Alvin Kamara, and I know we're going to get to Alvin, but as a player, this is what you think about. You think about, could the next game be my last game? This sucks for this kid because this is a kid that came in hot, you know, a lot of upside, and for him to be riddled with these injuries early, this is tough. So hopefully he bounced back, but this is a
push for a contract extension. So, Mike, I ask you, how much different is the Saints' offense if Alvin Kamara isn't there?
Say when he lines up behind Drew, you know, he's not a very important factor in the offense. And he's up in the slot. When he lines up out wide, when it's a safety for him, it opens the offense up for everyone else. And that's how Michael Thomas really gets. So, you know, Alvin Kamara was one of the guys who carried this team when Drew went down last year and Teddy Bridgewater was the quarterback, took some of the pressure off Teddy. He carried the load. He might not have ran for 1,000 yards last season or in his first 3 seasons as he split time with Mark Ingram. But this guy's been a focal point of this offense for the last 3 years. So take him away, then the defensive, you know, side of the ball can game plan, you know, for Michael Thomas and Drew. And, you know, it certainly won't help. But I can say this, when LaShawn McCoy was healthy and he was on the field, we was able to line him up in different spots on the field, the offense ran different. When he wasn't out there, the offense ran different. And I was the one behind the center, and I felt the full throttle.
Yeah, Mike. I mean, there really isn't no offense to me when you take Alvin out of it. I mean, you can look at this graphic right here, and you can see how impactful 13 and 41 is. I mean, you think about the quarterback comfortable going through your procedures and your progressions. You know, a lot of times you drop back, it's either 1 or number 2. So when you look at Kamara and Thomas, this is how amazing they are. But at the same time, it puts your offense, your quarterback, your play caller in a predicament. So when you're a quarterback, and Mike, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but when you drop back and you have 13, it's like, look, it's easy for me to read the wheel backer. If the wheel backer gets underneath Mike, I'm going to Alvin. If he drops and takes Alvin, then I have Mike Thomas. It's that easy. And Drew Brees, as we know, is one of those guys that's super detailed, and he's been in this offense for I don't know how many years. So I literally seen, Mike, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. I had a cup of tea with the Saints, all right? That was my last cup of tea. I was there for a month. In my first week on campus, I saw this guy stand in the mirror in the middle of the weight room for 30 minutes and walk and rock back and forth. I went to the strength and conditioning coach, what is he doing? And he said, the guy's literally going through every single play in the playbook in every situation. And he said, when that bubble clears out, he's going to go in there and do it again. And I thought, like, oh, my goodness, this is why Drew Brees is who he is. But that now disrupts that because you don't have Alvin Kamara. To your point, it's not just a running back. He's a receiver. Everything flows through him and 13. So, Drew, if I'm you, I'm going to say, Coach, you need a couple mil. Here's my checkbook. I need this guy right now. Seriously, right? Because, I mean, if you're Drew Brees, how many more years do you have? This is it.
Yeah, I mean, and for Drew, you want every single, because, you know, like I said, when we tried to replace Shady McCoy and Warwick Dunn with certain guys, it just didn't work, man. It was easier for the defense to come after us. It was easier for them to switch things up and do things differently. And, you know, the disguises was bad. It's hard to get a read. So, you know, you have to have your best players on the field at all times if you want to win. If not, you're doing yourself a disservice.
All right, 100%. So listen, fellas, to me, there's a lot of layers to this. The first one is, and this might seem like kind of a non sequitur, the running backs in the NFL might need to split off from the NFLPA and create their own union. Because the way they age and the way they're paid is so different than every other position. You can come into the league and be a superstar your first day in the league like Alvin Kamara, but then by the time your rookie contract's up, you might be used up. So that's first point. Second point is, I will support Alvin Kamara or any player that tries to press their leverage, even though they'll be painted in the media at times as someone who's not honoring their contract or being selfish, because look at what the Vikings right now are doing with Riley Reid. He's under contract, been a good player for them. They're trying to squeeze him for $5 million or threaten the season when he wouldn't be able to find a home. This is the player version of that, so I support Kamara, and I do think Wilds, even though the Saints have no money, Kamara oddly has some leverage here because not only is he as important as Brandon and Mike explain him to be, but the Saints have put all of their past, present, and future eggs in this year's basket. They keep borrowing from future cap years to keep this team rolling while Drew is still there. They are $56 million over the cap for next season. So once Drew walks away, it is going to be torn down, and they all know that. So I feel like some might say, well, then, Nick, they don't have the money to pay Kamara. They can borrow. They're screwed in the future anyway, but they don't want to be screwed right now in what could be Breeze's last year. So I feel like Kamara's got an odd amount of leverage because of the way the Saints have only cared about the and nothing down the road.
Brandon, I thought that you made an interesting point that Drew Brees should insert himself into these negotiations. If I'm Drew Brees, I'm looking around, I'm saying, look, my kicker's making 3-1, my punter's making 3, my running back's making 2, and we've got about 2 weeks before Tom Brady comes in here. I need this deal done. Were you just saying Drew Brees should insert himself in negotiations as a sort of like a hyperbole? Or do you actually mean Drew Brees needs to like walk in and be like, hey, 100%. Get this done?
You got to step up.
100%.
Drew got to step up.
Yep. That's right, 100%. You got to get it done because at the end of the day, like Mike said, you go back to that. They couldn't replace Shady. They couldn't play. There, I saw it. The entire offense goes through 41 and 13. Drew Brees dropping back, and you can see it in practice. You see this guy throw a ball, and then he continues to go through his progressions. He knows exactly where everyone's going to be. So when he drops back and he's looking for 13 and 13's not there, he immediately knows where Alvin's going to be. He sees his 41. He knows his body language. He knows when he sinks his hips, if he's going left or he's going right. So this is a big deal for Drew Brees. Now, is this a big deal for Taysom Hill? Is this a big deal for Jameis Winston? No. But for this guy, this is a huge deal. Coach Payton needs to get this deal done. Like, yeah, we love this scheme. And I talked about this yesterday. These are one of the reasons why I picked them to win the division but have struggles in the postseason because he doesn't know how to translate or change the things that wasn't working in a season to the postseason. And this is one of those glaring things. When he doesn't have 41 and 13, he struggles.
All right, Alvin Kamara again heading into that final year of his rookie deal. Wait and see what happens there. Hey, Giannis and the Bucks struggling in Game 1 against the Heat last night. What went wrong for the reigning MVP?